Good morning, everybody. Hopefully, you guys had a good weekend. I've been dealing with some things with Facebook, so if you guys are on Facebook and you can see this, you are lucky because Facebook issued me a strike and a pretty hefty one. I can't post to groups, I can't go live. They said, but I appealed it, so I'm hoping that this one, because it was formulated before the strike happened, that it'll go live and everyone can see it. Nope, it didn't let me. All right. Well, that answered that question. So no Facebook this morning, and I apologize for that. People on Facebook, I'll try and post it later. Hopefully, it'll let me even do that. Anyway, um, I apologize now, but it was not my fault. I did not intentionally say something like I normally do to get banned. This is not even something I went out on my way to do. Um, it's not me being me. This is me not being even understanding why I got a strike. So um, it'll be for a whole month. So people on Facebook, I apologize. You won't be able to see anything from Straight Talk for a whole month. You won't be able to see Savage Patriots for a whole month, which is taxing. So I apologize. But it's really not my fault, but I apologize on behalf of Fascist Book, the crazy people. In any case, this morning we have a guest, Miss Crystal Jenkins. Um, And for those of you who don't know her, don't worry. She's not a well-known name yet. Um, but she inboxed me a couple of days ago and then told me that she had used one of my statements in something I made on Too Strong. So after perusing her online content, now mind you, she's not a social media figure per se. She has been on social media and she does not have a really big present. I don't know why, because when you see and hear, you'll understand why she should have a bigger platform. But like Too Strong and most of the outspoken side of Christianity, she has a voice that I think most people need to hear. So I invited her on today to discuss more so the family dynamic, with her being married and having kids, and the way that we're supposed to be operating as believers in today's world. And we may touch on some social aspects as well when it comes to race relations and all that stuff. But for the most part, we'll be hovering around the idea of family. So, with that being the case, please welcome to the platform Miss Crystal Jenkins.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good, good.
You
Welcome
too,
to Straight
girl.
Talk.
Thank you. Thank you, Straight Talk family. Thanks for having me. This is gonna be great. It's gonna be fun.
Yes, it will. If you ever want to keep up with the comments of what's happening, you can open up your YouTube channel, and the lives will be the live stream. Since it's only only YouTube, you'll keep up with the comments and questions. But if
For
anyone
sure.
has a question for you, I'll send it. I'll send it on the screen here.
Okay, I'll do that.
Um, so what I'm gonna do is I'll give you a couple of minutes, and you can just tell everybody about yourself, and I'll read the room. I'm pretty sure I'll know when you're done. If not, you can just tell me, and I'll pop back up. I'll give you a couple of minutes. Tell them who you are.
Okay, hey everyone. I am Crystal Jenkins. I am from Brooklyn, New York originally. So I'm a New Yorker, even though I wasn't born there. I'm kind of like mixed in, lived in Northern Virginia for about 12 years and then moved to Baltimore. I'm a wife and a mom of three beautiful, wonderful kids. I am a kingdom's kid. You will always see me rocking a crown because we need to be reminded in this dark day and age of who we are. I think the world has done a good job of trying to define us, but reminding that this is God's kingdom here on earth is my passion. Letting everybody know that don't believe the hype. This is God's world, that in the end, Christians win when we do it God's way. So that's me.
Short, succinct, to the point. I like
Yep.
it. Not long-winded. That's a very valuable asset to have as a
Thanks.
podcaster. I have been accused of being too long-winded, and I still don't care. So they
You've
can
been
they
accused
can
of
deal with it. Yeah,
everything.
they can use it. They can deal with that later. Um, I have a couple of questions, and I hopefully you can get them. Give some people some answers.
Absolutely.
Hearing something from me, a male, is all fine and dandy, but hearing something from a Christian female is a whole nother ball game. And I try
Absolutely.
telling people that it's not necessarily that women should be in a position of power. That's not the point I'm trying to make. But there are some things that you guys say that hit home a little differently than men can. So what I'm the question here is this: as a wife and mother, what do you see your role in the keeping together of the family nucleus? What's your role in that?
Whew, just jump right in, right? That's a loaded question. What I would say is the role of a wife and mother, the role of marriage in
Hmm.
general. Let me start there.
Hmm.
Is harmony,
Yes.
harmonious. Like there's a scripture verse that people have to be reminded of that says it is better for a man to live on the roof of his home than in the home with a contentious wife.
Hmm.
So ultimately, the job, we could say that a wife is a keeper and all of that. And I'm going to get to that in that answer. But your number one job is as married people is to show harmony. And that can be shown in different ways. Um, it can be shown in support, love, and respect, and all of that. We need to get back to that because right now, what we say is stay together at all costs. But staying together in a contentious situation is so detrimental to your health, to your spouse's health, and to the sanity of the kids and the sanctity of the home. So, as a wife, I believe that it is my role is to almost facilitate in that harmony. I believe, and this can be like, I know all guys are different, but I do believe that guys are a little bit um they kind of follow, like I don't want to say follow because they are leaders, but they kind of the woman creates the essence of the home. Like and I don't know how that turned into happy wife, happy life. That's not where I'm going. That's not where I'm going at all, because then that kind of negates the happiness of the husband. But the wife is I heard a gentleman say the aroma of the home.
Hmm.
And so you do have to create that. Like, and however you do it, you married this man. Like, what is important to him is what we have to now talk about. Because there's some men that really don't care about cooking and cleaning. Like some of them cook all the time. I think that those roles have kind of a little blurred lines right now. Um, but if you have a man that enjoys meals, cook for him. It's such a simple, it's so simple, you know. So I do believe that the wife is the keeper of the home. If you have a man who likes the house tidy and neat, which most men do, try your best to do that. Communicate when you can't do that. Communicate when you need help. The wife sets the aroma of the home, and I believe that the man has to allow her to do that. So that's what I believe. And they're the keeper. The wife is the keeper of the children. I think it was Chris Rock that said, he was like, he said, if the kids can't read because there's no lights in the house,
That's the
his
father.
daddy spoke. But if the kids can't read, it's mama's fault. And I think that we need to get back to that. Like, I think that women, for whatever reason, there's a lot of reasons that women have been forced to go in the workforce and all of that. But ultimately, your kids are the responsibility of you. Like the healthiness and the wealthiness of your family is essentially you. So,
Right. Um, I like the idea of the aroma thing, and I'll tell you why.
mhm,
Um, there are many things that a man can do that could make the house smell like a trash heap.
mhm, mhm,
Um, and part of it is men not knowing, or at least not allowing God to show them how to love properly.
yeah,
I know that most men have a problem with understanding true love because we've been inundated with what the world thinks love is. And
absolutely.
women have also been inundated with what they think love is and expect that kind of idea from a man. So they both come into this blind. Okay. So you have men now thinking that love means doing whatever she wants and forget my happiness. And the woman thinking that love is he gets to do whatever I want and be happy about it. And
Mhm.
so when they both come in and their man realizes I can't do everything she wants because I can't do it happily anyway, and I'll end up becoming so bitter that we end up fighting. And she realizes that he's not doing what she wants him to do, and she becomes bitter, and then they end up fighting. So either way, it's a contentious situation. I think when men start to function under the wavelength that they're supposed to, which is the one God set them to, which is Him first, He gets to do a work through them towards the wife, the same way the wife, when her headship is through the husband, but her love is for Christ, He gets to show her what not subserviency, but humility and following the headship looks like. When you said aroma, it reminded me of Proverbs 31.
Mm.
And I had covered this a couple of months ago now, and you had said that the taking care of the home is a deal for the woman, and she sets the tone, and that the husband should allow her to do that. At first, he said allows, like, and then I realized that in verse 11 it says the heart of her husband safely trusts her,
Mm.
and
Yep.
that's a big deal because it's not just trust; it's safely
Yeah.
trust. And
Yeah.
in order for that to happen, there has to be something virtuous in her to trust safely.
Wow.
And I think what has always happened is that man has come with his intentions, woman comes with her intentions, and they expect the two to just meld it together. And it's not the case. Man should be coming with the intention to lead as Christ led his wife. And the wife should be coming to follow the husband as she follows Christ. When that happens, it does not change what her actual calling is, which is to be a virtuous wife and to take care of the home. It enhances it.
Absolutely.
What is the biggest problem or detriment to communication that you have found? I mean, you may not have any problems with communication in your family dynamic. You guys may communicate perfectly, and you may be able to write 15 books on it. I don't
Oh
know,
yeah. Okay.
but
You.
but if you have the roots you say you have, which is like my roots in the Caribbean, something tells me you have a streak in you that could easily stand up and say, "Boy, no, I'm okay, okay." I know you probably had it in you because my wife has it, and you don't just things don't just fly.
Oh yeah.
They encounter some missiles and they'll get knocked down under the sky like this. So, in your life, in your relationship, what has been the biggest hindrance to proper communication that you found?
So the biggest hindrance is to proper communication is safety. Like
Mhm.
seriously, and I did not know that that word said that, but now I have to go back and read it. And I talked to like a few of my friends. I think that in any situation, you're not going to get clear communication. You're not going to get genuine communication, authentic communication, unless you feel safe. And a lot of times, I think for me, I've noticed a lot of men, they don't necessarily feel safe. Women kind of, like, no, 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 whatever. And then you have to kind of sort through the baggage as a man. But men will not tell you what they're thinking if they feel safe, if they don't feel safe, if they feel judged, if they feel like it's going to end in whether it's right or wrong, whether it's right or wrong, because I do think that that has a lot to do with immaturity. But the biggest hindrance is safety. You have to, if you want to know what somebody is thinking, and that's why I was, even with this whole like, race relations. I was like, we're never going to get to the bottom of it because nobody's safe to tell people what they really, really think. Before
Right.
they even can get a word out, it's
It's
you've cut
judged.
them off, you've called them a racist, you've called them this, you've called them that. The same thing with marriage and communication. If I don't feel like my spouse is my safe place, then you're only going to get surface. You're going to get a lot of lies, you're going to get a lot of manipulation, and those are all areas that the devil can come in, because while you're talking, I'm telling myself all these things, and while she's talking or he's talking, I'm telling myself all these things, and you're never going to get authentic communication that way. That's my experience.
And it filters to the children.
Oh yeah,
The
absolutely.
kids see it, and if it's one thing I've realized with children is they see things that you don't think they see.
Oh yeah.
My 8-year-old is a prime example.
Oh, I can only imagine.
This Negro, I'll tell you, okay? So yesterday I was talking to my daughter
Mhm,
and just sitting, shooting the breeze, and he's listening off in the corner, right?
mhm.
Now, I don't know he's listening. I'm talking to my daughter. And I said something to her, and out of this other room, he says, "Yep, yep, Dad, that makes a lot of sense." I'm like, hang on, bro. Look. So I said, "What do you mean? What makes sense?" And he repeated,
Exactly what you said.
"Okay." So I'm like, "All right, okay." So and now he's always been this way, right? But
Mhm,
he picks up on tension cues in the home. He knows when
mhm.
people are not, he can sense all that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so if a kid can, I think us as adults have no excuse to not.
Oh, yeah, for
I
sure.
think we intentionally ignore the tension and we make it such a normal thing that it becomes who we are. And I
Yeah.
think this is why you see some women and some men who can hear their kids saying, "Mom, mom, 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 dad, dad, dad," and they're just down doing their thing. They don't even, it's almost like they can't even hear what's going on. And I think what we miss is that when children realize, oh, you're not interested, strike that as mom not interested, dad not interested. And when something big happens, do not tell.
Oh,
And
wow.
now the world is now encroaching on that scene and saying, well, if they're not going to listen, I might be a predator, but I'll listen. And you can come talk to me. Teachers are going to take it that way. Predators are going to take it that way. The evil people are going to take it that way. So I think the communication that you mentioned and having a safe space not only doesn't stop with husband and wife, it filters down to the children. You
Yeah.
have how many? You said three?
I have 3, and it's so interesting that you brought up that point because I had never thought about that, that children do learn to just tabulate, like,
Yeah.
because that's what we do. We're tabulating, with our spouses, and we're tabulating that, "Oh, yeah, I remember when you did this," and waiting for a chance to pull it, and you can't feel safe that nobody is gonna be genuine like that, and kids understand more than we even recognize that they do, and like if you and your spouse are fighting. I remember when I'm divorced, so I have a child who's with another gentleman, and I remember when we had split, and I remember him coming to me and he was like, "Mom, I just want us, to all be a family." And I looked down at him just like he was a little person, and I said, "That's not your life. You have to navigate your life the way that it is now. And I love you. Mommy loves you. Daddy loves you. We are going to be the best us." Like just talking to them like they are human beings, telling them that they can work through their feelings now, that you don't have to worry about like them being a 52-year-old man, no shots to Kirk Franklin, crying about like stuff that you can't control. Like
Hmm.
you can't, as children, they can't control a divorce in the family. They can't control mommy and daddy don't love each other. They can't control, but here's what they can control. They can control how they feel. They can talk about how they feel. You give it safe. You make it safe for them to say how they feel, but also you don't allow them to manipulate you into a situation that is not the way that
Healthy.
it's going.
Yeah. Or
Healthy,
right. Yeah.
it's just not going that for whatever reason. Maybe daddy left. Maybe mommy doesn't let whatever. They life is so complicated for children. And if they can learn to just manage their emotions and their feelings now, they'll be way ahead. Way
You
ahead of
see,
other adults.
this you mentioned Kirk Franklin. I managed to see that video, right?
Yeah.
Um, Now I have no doubt that poor parenting got Kirk to where he is. I have no doubt about that, and I have no doubt that he had been through enough as a child. And this whole conversation we're having right now about parents not being mindful of children trying to communicate, that he's a victim of it. But I do understand as well that as you get older, you have now the responsibility to take care of your own mental state and your own soul and your spiritual state. You have that responsibility now.
Yep.
Again, it doesn't negate the hurt that you may have had as a kid, and it doesn't really go away. And you encounter your father, and he may have been, but your reactions to that kind of thing tells me one. His reaction told me one thing: he never surrendered that aspect to God. And if you
Absolutely.
don't surrender that to God, what else haven't you surrendered to God? And if you don't surrender it to God, how are you exactly going to navigate life? And you say that you are a dependent on God. You can't have it both ways. Either I'm fully dependent
Yeah.
or I'm not dependent. I hear people say, well, I depend on God for certain things and I know he wants me to accomplish. That's not what he said though.
Nope.
He never told you to do some things for yourself and I'll do the rest. That's not what he said. It's a full dependence on him, and that goes for everything.
Every aspect.
Your statement about the kids you have and having that conversation with the small one. Um, do you feel that it's better to have the conversation like that with both parents, if not present at the same time, but both need to have the same conversation and be on the same page with the child, even if your conflict with the other person might be different?
I think that if you're in that situation, you're in that situation for a reason, and the child has to get used to hearing communication from you, and then maybe the other person is not on the same page, and that's probably why you're splitting. And so I don't necessarily think that it has to be. I co-parent really well with my ex husband, and sometimes I trust him to communicate, and I communicate over here, and my son has gotten used to that. He's not confused. I don't speak that on him. He's not. He understands that daddy loves him, and this is how daddy's house runs. And he understands that mommy loves him, and this is how mommy runs her house, or mommy's house. When I'm over at mommy's house, it's run. And I remember when he was just very young. I had just started dating my husband, and he had some conflicts. And I tell you that to tell you this: he had some conflicts with the way that my husband was talking to him, dealing with him.
Hmm.
And that was the last time that we ever had that. He was about 8 years old, and he went and he told his father, yeah, I don't like the way my husband said something to him. And his dad called me, and I said, Jerry, come here. My son's name is Jerry. I said, Jerry, come here. And I said, let me tell you something. Me and your father work really well together. I'm not going to disrupt what we have going on. You have to get used to the way that Matt, who's now my husband, deals with things. And you have to get used to, just like you have to get used to your dad's house. I said, but you're not going to be in conflict with us. This is the way that we manage our house over here. And this, so talking to them and being very clear. Don't allow children, and I love my children. Do not allow children to manipulate you. Like,
Hmm.
and we have gotten good at that. Like especially the world. The world is like, oh, children can make decisions. Children have, children know what they want to be. They can decide to be a girl. They can decide to be a boy. No, because my mom said in Trinidad, they used to say, if they could do all of that, if God didn't want them to have parents, he would have hung them on trees.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When they mature, they just fall
They
down.
just fall. Like,
No, we are molding and bending and shaping their lives for adulthood. And I think it was Michelle Obama that said, we're not raising children, we're raising adults. We really are. And so talking to them and speaking to them in a way that they understand, and in a way that you are the authority of the home, that
mhm.
they are a part of it. They are loved, they are nurtured, they're not insignificant. However, they have parents.
Yeah, and there is a hierarchy
Oh
there.
yeah, for sure.
Um, you touched on something, and I want people to, at least from my perspective, I'm not speaking to Crystal's perspective. This is
Okay.
mine. Okay,
Okay,
and people
all right.
understand that.
Fair enough.
Um, I have had people ask me before about this whole marriage and divorce thing. Okay,
Mm, mhm.
and they came to me. It's like, well, how are you gonna get remarried when you? I said, because I did not and was not given over to Christ
Yeah.
in my first marriage.
Mhm.
I was not.
Yeah.
And I could fully attest to that in every aspect of my life. I was not a Christian.
Yeah.
And I think God's requirement of marriage when it comes to believers is the where he puts his emphasis. Um, I do not believe, and hear me out clearly for those out there, I do not believe at all that marriage is a non Christian thing. People can disagree with that all you want, but man don't marry you. God does.
I love
Marriage belongs to God. And if it's not right before God, it ain't a marriage. And I don't care. That applies to both the gay and straight.
I
If
love
you
it.
didn't get married under God and you are following God's auspices when it comes to marriage, you are not married. You are unionized, you are linked, you might be tied by a piece of paper, but you ain't married. Now, with that being said, when it comes to marriage, divorce, and all that stuff, I fully understand, fully 100% understand that there are marriages that have gone through God and there are marriages, quote unquote, that are not. Those are, like I said, are not marriages, they're unions. And when you realize that, you have to make an adjustment, especially when you have, say, the both of you are not Christian and you
Mhm.
decide to get married through the state. And then all of a sudden, you both become believers. You now have to, I think, this is just me,
Okay.
solidify that marriage in God. You commit that marriage to the hands and the rulership of the Father. Children, hear me clearly, follow the leadership of parents. Because
Period.
if it happens that you are following God, his hierarchy says God, Christ, man, woman, children. It is his hierarchy because it's his plan. Man didn't come up with the idea of family, God did. Man didn't come up with the idea of marriage, God did. And man didn't come up with the idea of children, God did. So the only person that can direct you in raising, rearing, birthing children is God. Now, with that being said, my question is this:
Okay.
do you believe that a husband and wife dealing with stepchildren, because I have that same issue going on, um, have a extra burden to stay plugged in to Christ? Now, I don't mean that you're not plugged into Christ if you have kids of your own, but I have found that there is a special measure of patience that you need for children who are not yours. And this can probably more applies to your husband than anything else, unless he has his own too. There's a special measure of patience that has to be applied to children that aren't yours because they're stepping into a world that they are foreign to, and they, by just by buildup of DNA, are not familiar with.
Hmm.
What problems have you found between your current husband and your son in their communication, and what do you do to try and incorporate your son into a better relationship with your husband?
Yeah. So what I will say is for about 7 years we took on my our niece and nephew to come live with us, and so for a while we were raising 5 kids. And yes, I second that emotion. You have to get grace from God to taking kids that are not your own, that you take in at an age beyond maybe 3 or 4, because the 3 and 4 age are the formative years.
Mm-hmm.
Their personalities are built and solidified probably by the age of 5. And so when you are stepping in as a step parent, or you're stepping in as just an aunt or uncle or someone raising, you're gonna need God. I mean, like I because because the personalities have been shaped.
Mm-hmm.
Their experiences have been shaped, and you're not privy to what they've experienced, what they've seen, especially if it's a situation where it's unhealthy. In my situation, it was not unhealthy, so my son didn't come with a lot of the trauma that I've seen my niece and my nephew come with. um, so I would say it varies. I think it's something that before you even decide that you want to marry this individual, y'all have to talk about. Like, people get all of this like stuff from I don't know what kind of talks they listen to, or talk show or
Oprah.
YouTube. Oprah, oh, you can't meet my son till after a year I'm dating you. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you're gonna waste a year of your life dating somebody and then find out they're not compatible, or maybe they are compatible, and find out that they don't like your son. Like, are we really doing that? Children have to know that they are the child and they're subjected to whatever the parent's decision that God gave them. God, and I tell my son, you didn't get to pick me. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't get to pick me. My poor son. But because I'm so real, and I think that we look at children like they're this fragile, like almost pet or something. They're little human beings. Their brains are moving just as fast as ever. And so I think that the most effective way of like facilitating communication, facilitating conflict is being honest and talking it through and allowing them to share what they feel, or even if they can't articulate, you're their parent, you can kind of gauge it. And sometimes we just get so lazy. We I hate the phrase, I'm not a mind reader. Yes, you are. You're not, you may not be a mind reader, but you're a vibe reader.
Well, you know your child. You
You
know your
know what's
child.
not, yeah,
Yeah.
you know what's off. And so nipping it in the bud. I remember when my son was small, and I had just had my daughter with my husband, and she fell down the stairs, and I was like, oh my God, I would have been so, I said, I would have been so lost. I said, I would have been so lost. And my son, for the whole day, just not talking, not talking. Mind you, he's about 7 years old, 8 years old. He's not talking, he's not talking, he's walking around. And then he came to me, he said, Mom, you said all you had was lost if Maddie fell down the stairs. And I said, honey, I didn't say that. I said, I would have been so lost. I said, he said, you only care about her. And I said, oh my God, I didn't know you felt that way. Like, imagine he would have taken that like into like life. And I said, honey, I said, oh my God, I would have been so lost. Like, meaning if she had gotten hurt, but I would have been lost if you got hurt. And I would have been lost. But allowing them to verbalize, allowing conflict to happen, allowing them to speak freely about their feelings and their emotions and getting it out, talking it through, being honest about it, I think is the most effective way. And it's hard when the child hasn't been with you, but it's doable, and you chose to live with them, and with God's grace you can do it. So
You're right. You said something too. I had to make sure I write it down because that's
oh,
been my new thing.
I love
Um,
you. You're like, you said something, I'm like,
yeah.
what?
You said right or wrong, right?
Yeah.
Um, Now, I want people to, and I think you might agree with this. You may or
Okay.
may not.
Uh-huh.
It's not that we're approving of the wrong.
Oh yeah.
We are allowing them to facilitate in their mind the best way to say this, the encountering of right and wrong.
Oh
And
yeah.
they can facilitate in their mind, okay, this is right, this is wrong. And us as parents, if we're following God, we will know the difference between the two. We can urge them by whatever means to make sure you pick the right. But for
Absolutely.
them to understand the right by not just saying, oh, mom said so, they have to understand what the opposite is and why the opposite is bad. Say, for instance, and I'll keep going back to my 8-year-old because he is one of the best ones for the experience, as well as my 18-year-old.
Eight is fun.
He's definitely that. I'll do my 18-year-old first, okay?
Hmm.
Um, when I met him, he was 7. Okay, he was 7 years old,
Okay.
and there was something very wrong going on in his mind and spirit. He was off. When I say off, he was off.
Hmm.
And I understand now more than I did then, but I understood then that what he was going through was a loss of identity as a child. His
Hmm.
dad vacated the throne and left him. And they
Hmm.
had the kind of relationship that my 8-year-old and I had. Okay.
Wow.
My 8-year-old and I are like, you know, we even have a YouTube channel together. That's the kind of buddies we are, right? We
Oh,
homies, we friends.
nice.
And that was the relationship that Caleb had with his father.
Hmm.
And when that broke, it severed a portion of him that lasted him until he was 15 years old.
Oh wow.
We are talking about a long break in trust, in knowing what love was, and in knowing what his role was as a child. and this is what I'm talking to the fathers mainly right now. Your decisions can literally make or break your children.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the realest sense. And that goes everything from abandonment to not paying attention and listening to your to rigidness, to too much rigidness, to not enough rigidness. It's a wide gamut of things that you can use to destroy your child.
Mhm.
So when Caleb was introduced to me, I had already had my daughter. And so I had a very stringent way of parenting. Okay. And I
Mhm.
wasn't mean, but if I said something, that was the rule, and you don't go outside of it. And the punishment was always given, you know,
Yeah.
right away. There was no delay. And my daughter understood it. She and I keep telling people she got her first spanking at 6 months old. And it wasn't a beating. It was that, and to me that's a spanking.
Yes.
And she understood right away that okay, pops means business.
Oh God,
Because
you're
it
gonna
carried
get.
on in her later days. When she finally met her current brothers, she would constantly tell him, if he said something and and I said something that this is gonna happen, and they were like thinking, oh, she would tell him like, it will happen. Don't push that envelope. That he's serious, you
You're gonna
know.
you're gonna
But
get another strike because you
yeah,
spanked your kid. Like we're just gonna just get a
that's
strike.
that's okay. Let him strike that one. That's what that I'll gladly accept that strike.
Okay.
But my 18-year-old now, but at the time was ultra rebellious
Mm,
because in his world, if he was to ever, and I think this now because of how he behaves now, if I ever were to even accept this person the way I accepted my father, the only thing that can possibly happen is more pain.
mm,
If I decide, okay, you're pops now, and I accept you, no doubt in his mind that this would only lead to a double hate of pain because my pops left. So it must be something with me. And if it's something with me, I might as well act the way they think I am based on the
mm,
fact that he left.
mm.
And it continued to the point where he rebelled so much that he went off the deep end. And people know his story. But when God finally stepped in and I finally got to the point where I realized I paid a price when I took him in as my son. And but the price wasn't that I had to parent him, I had to love him. I can parent. Parent is nothing. It's almost like being a boss. I can be a boss.
Yeah.
But to be a loving parent is a whole nother ball game, especially if it's not yours. There's a difference altogether.
Yeah.
And when I finally got it, the version of love that God showed me versus what I thought was mine was letting go. I
Ah.
had to love him enough to release him to God to deal with. When I
Ah. Okay.
did that as a father, I didn't give up my fatherhood, but I gave up the control I thought I had over someone else's life that belonged to God. And I realized that God could do a better job at this than I could. And he did a work in me while doing a work in my son. And at the end of it, we're like, and I mean, him and I are now like Christoph and I. We talk
Oh
about
wow.
everything and we laugh all the time. And it's all like we talk now. And that is a far cry from where we were for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
But it also tells me that it takes time sometimes for us, and not for God to work, but for us to relinquish God to work.
Yeah, I don't know where we get this whole worldly point of view that we're supposed to somehow hold on to situations that are doing you harm. I mean, like like every example in the Bible, God calls for peace amongst your brethren, like as much as possible having peace amongst your brethren. But I've noticed parents who literally allow themselves to be abused in the name of love, allow themselves to be disrespected in the name of love, and then, oh well, that's my child. I have to take this verbal abuse from them.
No, you
Well,
don't.
I grew up with Annette Baptiste, okay? Like she
That's the Trinidadian name if I ever heard one.
like she don't play no games, okay? Like
Was she from Port of
period.
Spain?
Huh? Oh yes.
Ah, okay, there you go. All right, I got it. I got it right there,
She
right
don't
away.
play no games.
No games.
And yeah, and I, I don't understand this new parenting that you don't love your kid because you don't allow them to be in your house talking crap to you. Like the locks will be changed, and I love you. God bless you. But yes, I do believe that God calls us to somehow let go. Like,
Hmm.
and there's, and I don't even like the songs that they make today. Oh God, Marlon, this is a whole nother story. But like, oh, the over, no shadow you won't light up. It's like God is some obsessed ex-boyfriend with you. Like, no, it's not. Nobody's in love with you that much. You know, like if you, God is just, and God,
Or at least not our version of love.
it's not our
Not
like,
our
yeah,
version of love.
exactly. It's and we make these songs that make God like seem like he's like he just accepts our mess. And God does. So I say that to like I always say about my kids, like, don't expect me to accept that. God doesn't accept that. I'm so, and I know I'm not as good as God. I'm not accepting that. You are not going to talk to me like that. You're not going to disrespect me like that. You're not this. There is going to be some order in here, or somebody got to go.
Hmm.
So who pays the bills? Because we're not going to draw straws, and we're not going to have no company. We're not having no family meetings. You're not going to be in here with that. And I do believe that our families will be a lot healthier if if the
Boundaries.
children saw order from here. That way, when a police officer tell you stop, you know what it means to stop. You know what it means when he tells you give me license registration. Like all of this, like you said, starts with the breakdown of the family.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
kids don't see order in mom and dad and
They will see
households.
it anywhere else.
Nope,
Yeah.
nope.
You mentioned that song Reckless Love, right? I've always
I
loved
love
the
that
song. I love the song, but I'll tell you where I see the song versus where the person that wrote the song,
song.
where
Okay,
he got it wrong. Okay.
okay, okay.
Um, because I've heard multiple people mention that God's love is not reckless. And so that whole concept of reckless love, again, I think we look at the term reckless in a humanistic, stupid way. That's
I
the best
agree.
way I can say it. Um, because here's the truth: there was no reason for him to have to or need to, because he's self-sufficient, to redeem us. He didn't have to.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
By most standards of operation, in order to consider something sane, that would be reckless.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So that is in some ways reckless love. It's not reckless that it wasn't something that he counted and something that he forethought to do. That's not the reckless part of it.
Uh-huh.
By man's definition, it would be.
Yeah,
However, going back to this concept of the no shadow you won't light up and no mountain you won't climb up coming after me, he already did that.
exactly. He
That's
already.
already, it's already done. He did that when he climbed down into hell to get the keys and climb back out. That's already a done. There was no mountain you didn't light up, and there was no shadow. That what he did that already. He's
Exactly.
not doing that perpetually.
No.
We
He,
have
he,
to
he
encounter the truth of what he's done and accept what he's done and live in the finished work. We
yeah.
don't like doing that. We want to say, oh, well, I can keep going back to that and he'll just keep coming back to find me. No, you don't.
No,
No,
he's
no,
not a fool. He's not a
no.
fool. And
Period.
and I tell people, and I'm very passionate when I say I wouldn't serve that kind of God. I would
Period.
not. Would you?
No.
A man that is sitting up here like running after you. You clearly do not want him at all. You have no interest in his laws. He don't need you. You need him. He could literally wipe you away in 2.5 seconds. You think he's sitting up here like coming after you? So yeah, I agree with the reckless and I love that song because I think it's a very, like beautiful thought.
Sentiment.
But
Mhm.
that's how all the worship music now is like, oh, God loves me so much. No, he's coming back for his church without spot or wrinkle. He's not coming back for you, baby. I know you want him to come back just for you because he just loved you so much. But no, he's coming back for his church without spot or wrinkle. Period.
And it's the same thing with family.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we don't look at family in the same way as we should, because here's the thing: the model that he left is based on the church.
Yes.
He said that the husband should follow Christ because Christ is the head, as he is the head of the church. The wife follows the head, just like the church follows the head. Everything he makes is an art. Now, the family is not the model, the church is.
Yes, absolutely.
I hope people understand the church is the model. The family follows that model. And when you
Mhm.
don't follow that model, how do you think he says to handle conflict, right? He handles conflict by going 2 or 3 to 1. And then he says that the head takes care of it, right? So it's all of it modeled after his, not his church. The other thing, too, I think we seem to forget is that because he cannot dwell where iniquity is and he cannot dwell where darkness is, there is no way possible that he's going to keep going to the dark to pick you up when you're the one that's supposed to step into the
The
light.
light.
Okay, so the flip has happened to where God has now become um was it the prince in Rapunzel.
Yeah.
He has now become the prince, and we have to start climbing and climb. He has to climb to us, and
Yeah.
we waiting for him in this tower, and we're just gonna wait for him while we're sitting in our sin, mind you. We know we are. We know we're locked in a
Yeah.
tower of sin, and we're just sitting there waiting on God. Yeah, he'll come for me eventually. Don't worry. And we just sit there.
No.
Not we pursue him,
Yes.
because we have to recognize where we are before him, not where he is before us. He is not before us. He's above,
Absolutely.
which means that he cannot come. He's already done this part. He came down,
Mhm.
did what he had to do, went back. It is now your job to acknowledge that and meet.
Yeah.
And I think with the family, children have to be shown exactly what they are, like the church.
Absolutely.
You follow the head.
Absolutely.
As much as you might dislike whatever you think you dislike, there is a rule, because the head follows Christ. If you're disobeying me, you're disobeying Christ.
Mhm.
And I think when kids understand that, they see a different perspective. Like my son, again, the 8-year-old. Um, and I think we got him at the right time. I'll tell you that much. My 8-year-old has a very good connection to the Father. Um, and he has a very good base of a heartfelt appreciation for his family members. He does not do well when one's not home. He
Mhm.
does, even if they go hang out with his friends, he does not do well with them not being home. He loves the family to be all together. He does
Nice.
not function when they're gone.
Uh-huh.
And I keep looking at him and thinking, oh, he'll get used to it. I don't want, and now I keep thinking, I don't want him to get used to it. I want him to keep appreciating family being around each other, because it is exactly what creates the power of a family.
I agree.
The power of a family resides in its ability to feel as one.
Mhm.
And he has that in already inundated in his body, where if his sister leaves, he's, I miss my sister. And she's
Aw.
just gone to school. I'm like, bro, she'll be back like this afternoon. I don't know what your problem is, but she'll be back like this afternoon.
Yeah.
I know, but I still
I
miss her.
miss her.
Yeah.
Aw.
And then his brothers will leave and go hang out, or they'll go play football. And a game, he's like, I miss my brother. Or I'll be gone to do something for the whole day. I miss my dad. I miss mom. I'm like, bro, you got to stop. But then I keep thinking to myself, do I really want that? Or do I need to try and figure a way to help him understand that at times the distance is needed, because there are things that needs to get done. It's not that we're gone. It is that we have stuff going on, and you have to understand that that space might be for you to deal with you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's starting to get that concept where he's understanding independent time, and he's understanding, but he still has, like, it's ridiculously deep for him that family is big. Now, my oldest hated family time, hated it. But
Wow.
I understood why, because family meant pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
When God restored it, oh my goodness, this dude is all about family now.
Yeah.
He will, like,
Yeah.
he gets home, he found a job. When he gets home, he spends time with his brothers. He talks to his sister. He had never done this before. Okay, this is not him.
Wow. Wow.
He will come and hang out with the family. He will take his little brother on walks with him. He's going to a party. Like the other day, he went to a party with his friend, some siesta thing, a Hispanic party, and he told me, "Get little man in his drip." I'm like, "We ain't got no Hispanic gear on here. Just put him in something plaid. He'll be fine." So we got this plaid jacket on him, and he's going with his brother, and had his hat, and he's going to the siesta, and he's taking pictures in the car with his brother. It was a first for Caleb.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's what God restores to reality that man tries to distort.
Oh, yeah,
He
that's
became
exactly.
he became a believer and he joined with God. And when that happened, there was a full transformation of this kid to the
Yeah.
point where he understood. And it made me understand now why my smallest one is the way he is.
Mhm.
God showed me the journey of a lost person, the adventure of letting that person go to him. And
Mhm.
then he solidified what it looks like in my youngest. And I
Mm.
think for many that are married and have children, we get so bogged down with life and bills and problems, we refuse almost to see the joy of having family.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
for sure.
it's become now, well, we got to do this again and do that. No,
No.
enjoy the fact that you're family. It's
Yeah.
just like in the church, there's conflict, but understanding that it's conflict within the family, which means it's solvable, gives a whole different perspective on problems. So how do you, and you already touched on this a little bit, this is going to move away from the kids for a little bit.
Okay. Alright.
How do you solve conflicts between yourself and your husband?
Oh, boy.
Oh, here comes a now it's a laugh. Now, oh, oh, this is gonna be good already. All right,
Yeah, real
okay.
quick, let
Uh-huh.
let me say something about family that you said. We like you said that the enemy tries to pervert whatever God says, and what
Hmm.
we have to get back to family being instant advocacy, because it, almost like the sheep story is that you want to strike the shepherd, scatter the sheep, or get one sheep alone, and the devil is able to take them over. And I think what family represents, just as the church does, is advocacy, understanding one mind, one body. That doesn't mean you get along with each other. And I was telling my husband, because we were finding some long lost cousins, and I wanted them my kids to get to know their cousins, and I was like, you know what? These are instant advocates. Like there's something that Marlon, if I told you today, we cousins, there would be something that's like, really?
It
And
wouldn't surprise me though.
it wouldn't surprise me either,
It
right?
wouldn't surprise me at all,
But
like at
it's
all.
something that kind of gels like almost immediately. So yes, instant advocacy, I would say, with family. And conflict is easier to resolve when you have respect for each other.
Hmm.
And I think that most conflict or most arguments and most fights um, get out of control or out of whack, or when the respect is lost.
Hmm.
And I think that it is definitely the wife's duty to respect the husband. I'm traditional in that standpoint. I wasn't always like that. I mean, I was a head bopping, you ain't gonna tell me nothing. Independent woman. You got me twisted. Like I was one of those until God had to really work on my heart, and I saw the beauty. I started listening to a lot of Miles Monroe and understanding my role as a female, because we're not men, and it's God's way, or you just need to just decide that you don't want to do it
You
at
don't want
all.
God,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. It's God's way. So I hear, oh well, it should be both, and we don't get to choose. We don't. And that is a gift to us, even though it's hard. I remember this lady said that it's a gift, that God's word is clear. It's and that's a gift. And so your husband being the head, you have to respect what they're doing, where they're going, their dreams, their aspirations, and where God is leading them to take the family. Now, the state of the family now here, especially in our culture with the brownskins, um, it's all out of whack. I
Hmm.
mean, men have really lost their way in a matriarchal society. I don't care
Males,
what nobody tell you. This is
males.
not a patriarchy. Listen to me. You too. This is not a patriarchal society. This is a matriarchy. And men have been portrayed on TV as bluttering idiots,
Hmm.
mom's the boss,
Simpletons, yeah.
Mom's the boss. Mom knows what's going on. Does whatever she wants to. And I think that that is indicative of what's going on in our community right now. Like we are just so when it comes to conflict, I mean, we have to get some stuff in order in our families to even be able to health to be able to healthily resolve conflict, and it starts with respect. Like
Hmm.
I'm telling, I come from Brooklyn, so you get punched in the mouth, like you disrespect. Like if you step on somebody's shoes, if you don't say I'm sorry quick enough, you get punched in the mouth.
That's a
And
Negro moment all of a sudden.
some
Yeah.
people would say that's traumatic, but I would say that's very healthy. It taught me to learn respect real quick because respect, and we've kind of gone away from this, but lack of respect will end in violence.
Hmm.
That's how men are. Men don't, and they have castrated men, but that's historically that's the way that it is. A lack of respect ends in a way that you don't want to go. You said end in fights, like you had to fight. You start disrespecting, you had to scrap. And I think that that's what's going on in homes now. There's no respect. How do you handle conflict if you don't even respect a man's right to even be upset? And they talk about men's mental health. Nobody cares about men's mental health. Nobody cares about it because the women are taught that it doesn't matter what the man thinks. It doesn't matter how they feel. They can say, I don't want no broke man, but you can't say, I don't want a fat woman. I don't want an overweight woman. I don't. Like, I don't want, he's got to have all kinds of like, as in the genitalia. And then if a man say, I don't really like girls with short hair. I don't want bald headed females with pink hair. I don't want that. Like, you're not allowed to say that. So I think that for as far from and you asked about my situation in particular, is I don't think that any conflict is resolved with no respect. And
Hmm.
it has to be a baseline of respect for your husband, and your husband has to have a lot of respect for your wife, as well. And until that happens, then conflict cannot be it's not going to resolve. It's going to be bad every single time
Hmm.
because you go in with your guard up. You go in like wanting to fight,
Ready to throw hands.
ready
Yeah.
to throw down. Somebody just, I mean, think about it. Like in these little kids are ready to blow people's brains out because somebody disrespected them. That came from somewhere. That came from somewhere. And I do believe that we're made in the image of God. And they say that God loved those who fear him. That's respect. Like, we all want respect. If we are made in the image of God, we all want respect. The way that you solve conflict, it starts with respecting your spouse. And then I almost think respect is better than love, honestly.
Well, the thing about it is, I think, and what you said triggered something in my thinking here.
Mhm.
Um, I think we need to aim respect.
Mm.
Um, I think there is man authored respect, and then there is respect of God.
Yes, absolutely.
And when we look at our spouse, and this is why I say marriage is not a worldly thing, it's a God based thing. And that's why I don't believe that marriage happens between just two random people.
Yeah.
I cannot be a part of something I don't believe in. So,
Mm.
okay, you want to get married. Good for you. All right. So that's like me saying, I want a Ford. Okay. I'm going to buy me a Ford. And then I get this car. I buy the Ford. Then I go and I take off the nameplate and I put Dodge on it. Then I take out the engine and I put a Dodge engine in it. And then I strip the outside and I make it look just like a Dodge Charger. Did I really want a Ford?
No.
I didn't want a Ford. I
No.
wanted a Charger, but I could get the Ford and I say I buy a Ford. Now I can say, yeah, I have a Ford, but bro, it looks an awful lot like a Dodge Charger. Yeah, no, but if you look at my receipt, you see the receipt says it's a Ford right there. That's a Ford. Um, let me see the engine. No, that's definitely not a Ford engine. That's Dodge. Okay. So are you married? Well, yeah, look, the paper says no. Marriage is like the Ford, right? I
Absolutely.
wanted to get a Ford. I wanted to get married. Then I go change the whole guts of it to
Yeah,
look like something it ain't, and then
yeah.
I still call it marriage. It's not marriage.
It's not marriage.
Okay? So if it's not marriage, then I can't really respect the person, and there's no need to, which is why you can see all the conflict happening.
Yeah,
Perfect.
for sure.
So if I know marriage is God ordained and my husband follows Christ and I follow my husband because that's what Christ told me to. So in essence, I'm following Christ. When I approach my husband or my wife to have a conflict resolution, I am speaking to that person with the reverence I should have to who?
God, absolutely,
To Christ.
absolutely.
So the respect is not to the person, the respect is to Christ. And because you respect Christ, you approach that person a certain way.
Absolutely.
Now, we have forgotten that because we've taken out the engine and put in a Dodge and think we're driving a Ford. What you call that is insanity or retardation.
Yeah,
That's
we
not sanity. And
yeah.
so when we have these conflicts in marriage, now, like I said before, my wife and I are from the Caribbean. We argue different. Okay. People see it and they think, oh, they are about to get a divorce.
It's hardcore.
Nah, we passionate, and when we argue. And it's not that I hate her and that she hates me. It's a culture issue.
It's
That's
a
how we
culture.
always been. And I know God has but it's not like I'm sinning against my wife or my wife sinning against. We just talk different when we get impassioned and our verbiage. It's like German people when they talk.
It's hardcore. It's
Okay, when
hardcore.
German people, every word sounds mad, right? But it's not. They could be talking about toilet paper, and it sounds like and like what is I'm like? What are you talking about? We're talking about cotton, cotton, and cotton sounds like that. Like yeah. So it's. But I don't disrespect my wife.
No.
I understand that I have a charge to lead her. She
Yeah.
has a charge to follow, but we both have the charge to follow one person, and that person should be abiding in both of us. And so,
Mhm.
if I understand that about my wife, I will address her respectfully the way I would address Christ, and she would do the same mutually. And I
Absolutely.
think we have forgotten, not, I can't say we forgot. This is intentional.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mankind has made it intentionally to avoid doing things the way Christ wants it
Oh
done.
yeah,
And so
because
we
we
have end up having this conflict of interest. It's not even a conflict of love, it's a conflict of interest. My interest becomes mine, hers becomes hers, and we forget the interest of Christ. And when that happens, the whole thing falls apart.
oh yeah, and like you said, it's intentional because we kowtow to our bosses. We kowtow when we want something. Like, and then you talk to your spouse like they're nothing. Like it's intentional. And we can't. But I also believe that it's cultural as well. I mean, like everything that we do as a community, like you just kind of see it. And these men, I'm actually shocked at the men who accept it. I mean, really, like y'all are the strong man, and the fact that the men are allowing the culture to shape them in a way that is not healthy for them in their livelihood. Like, so is a man supposed to be just in a marriage, bring home the paycheck? It's sexless and respectless, and you just do that until you die. Like that is to me why the families are in the
Disarray.
disarray that they're
Yeah.
in, because like the headship, and then you have women trying to be men, which we can't be at all, and then the children are being adults. Like it's a whole hot mess, and I don't know other than to do it God's way. Like he charges the men, and so I do believe that this type of society is going to be short lived, because it can't live. It literally can't continue on this way. So I'm really scared for my children. I talk to my son a lot about what to look for in a wife, and people think that I'm crazy. He's only 13, and I'm like, hey, make sure you watch how her mom talks to her dad. Make sure you navigate and ask her what does she think about her dad, or like we're not having these conversations. Then we are gonna our children are gonna be
Yeah. And look, I'm not a, like you said, and I know you didn't mean the word afraid in terms of fear,
no, I didn't
but
know.
you worry, you're concerned about it.
Yeah.
Um, to kind of get things to wrapping up here, I want to have a part two, by the way, if that's okay with you.
Oh yeah, I would love
Um,
it.
the the thing that came to my mind was this concept of male and men, and men should be doing. I think men do their jobs. Males don't.
Okay.
Um, a man of God is exactly that, a man of God.
Mhm.
And males don't rarely want to follow God. They follow their own intuition, and the same way that females do what females do. But a woman
Mhm.
stands on God's promise.
Yeah.
And I think the more we as believers start to delineate the difference between a male and a man and a woman and a female by their behavior and who they follow,
Yeah.
there is a massive change that will happen when we raise our sons to be men and our daughters to be women. You
Yeah.
will find that a woman of virtue is born and a man of God is born. And
Absolutely.
when we have males just running around the place, the only thing a male is made for is procreation. And so the male will have a different head he thinks with, and the woman is only made for one other thing, which is why you see, or the female is made for one, which is why you see a bunch of female rappers.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
have a female vibe because they're only built for one thing, and that is procreation. The spirit side, which is becomes a man and becomes a woman, is the only thing that God can create. I have never met, and I'm going to say this and it might upset many people, I have never met an ungodly woman.
Wow.
I have met ungodly females,
Yeah.
but I've never met an ungodly woman. And I've never met an ungodly man. I have met ungodly males.
Yeah.
Um, and so we have here at our disposal a chance to write what ships want to be righted.
Mhm.
Not all ships can. Some are going to sink, some are going to explode, and some will just right off the dock just be destroyed. And I have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
But what I have to also understand that I have charge of my own ship, and
Mhm.
I'm also going to be letting off some vessels off of mine to become ships later on.
Absolutely.
Um, and so I have no concern necessarily because I know God has my children in His hands, and I'm instilling in them who to go to when conflicts appear. Go to
Yeah.
God first, and that if once you do that, don't worry about the outcome. He's got the outcome.
Yeah. For sure.
If you were to leave the audience, at least for part one,
Mhm.
with a word of advice for wives, I'll let you speak to the wives, um, and mothers. What would be your number one word of advice to them?
The number one word, the thing that I would want to leave here with when I'm talking to women is understand that your role is not beneath your husband because he is the headship. Understanding that your role is necessary and it's beautiful, and your children need you to be a godly woman, and your children, your husband needs you, especially a lot of single women. Like, find out how God made you, and God is not a man. He cannot lie. And once his word says this is who you are, that you are made in his image. So anybody made in his image is not beneath anybody, but we are made different, and that's okay. Love your children, take great interest in them, shape them, mold them, and I guarantee you, you will change the world. I think women are world changers from that perspective. So I think that's what I would leave with.
Nice, nice. And to the men, I will say this to the men. I will say because I know ain't no males listening uh, to this podcast. They don't have the intelligence to.
Mhm,
Um, Men, your only charge in life is to love like Christ,
mhm.
and that goes to everybody, like loving everybody as Christ, and that means that you have the right and the position to denounce things that are against God. Don't let them tell you that loving like Christ means accepting every stupid thing that comes across your table. It means
Agreed.
slapping it across the fence when it's offensive to God. So be feel free to understand that that's completely cool to do. Okay, don't
Uh-huh.
let them tell you, oh, you gotta love everybody. No, I don't. No, I don't. No,
Yeah.
no, I don't. Don't lie to me. No, and understand that your role as a man is a beautiful one. And when you find yourself a good woman, meaning godly, that you found a good thing.
Mhm.
Um, but part two, I think I want to dive into the societal issues.
Okay.
I do want to touch on that because I want to bring that video up so people can see what you said.
Okay. All
You
right.
think you people think I'm controversial on Tuesday?
I'm just telling
No,
the
no, 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 no. You don't get you don't get to do that. You don't get to
okay,
do that.
all
They
right.
gonna get to judge. No, 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 trust me, people. Trust me. If you think I'm bad, if you think I'm bad, I am not. I am very, very, very soft spoken compared to this one right here.
It's the
When
Trinity. It's the
when I
Trinity.
hey don't no 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 you didn't blame in culture on it. You ain't getting that caveat. No, no. Just wait. I'm gonna play what she said on the next episode. I'm gonna play what she said. It may be a little bit of a stray from the normal straight talk, but it'll trust me, it all is based on God stuff. Trust me.
Mhm.
But when you hear it, I hope everybody get off my case about me being,
It was genius.
hammer.
It was
Okay.
genius.
Okay. I'm not always a hammer, but this anyway, when you hear it, you're gonna see what I'm talking about. Um, Tomorrow, however, we have on our docket, we have to tackle another TD Jakes protege, um, and what she has to say about mental health and all that stuff in relation to God. It's TD Jakes, it's all out there, crazy, aloof nonsense. So we'll talk about that. And then on Wednesday, I haven't put it up yet, but we will be discussing this new, I don't know if it's new, but the trending thought that Jesus was and is Lucifer. It's now become a talking point that Jesus is Lucifer and that the Christians are actually worshiping the devil, and all. We'll go into all of it, and we'll show you exactly whether or not they're right. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Well,
Right?
Christians are worshiping the devil, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
ain't Jesus.
yeah. And then on Thursday we'll be talking about Peter. Um, Peter will be the oh man. When you actually look at Peter, I think we'll understand. Um, Someone said read his comment. Let me see what Chris was saying. Yeah, Chris was saying something. What do you say? He said, read my comment, bro.
Oh,
I'm trying to think.
sorry.
Oh, part two. Is that what you're talking about? Part two? I didn't see any other comment. Was there another comment that you took offense to or something? Did I say something wrong? I know I say stuff all the time that offend people, and I,
No.
I normally don't care. But let me know what you. Um,
Let me see.
I'm looking.
Which comment? There was a lot of comments, so
I know. I'm waiting for Chris to repeat it. Let me
ah.
see if he repeats it. I'm gonna give him 2 minutes. You better hurry up. You better hurry up.
All right.
Blasphemous.
Well,
Yeah,
I
it is
hope my
blasphemous.
computer
It
doesn't
is. It
die.
is indeed blasphemous for them to call Lucifer
I hope my
Jesus.
computer doesn't die. Sorry.
That's okay. We're almost done. You'll have time to charge it after.
Hmm.
You can always inbox me the question, Chris, since we're friends on Facebook anyway.
Okay.
So we'll catch you guys tomorrow. Savage Patriots will be on today. Sorry,
Mhm.
Facebook, you won't be able to see this. And we'll be talking about this Israeli Hamas issue on there. You don't want to miss that because we go into a lot more than people don't go into. So
All
we'll
right.
catch you then. And Too Strong will be live tonight covering the Pope and his latest shenanigan. It was a couple of years ago, but when you see it, you won't believe he actually did this. But you should believe it because it's the Pope. He does a bunch of dumb stuff anyway. He doesn't know how to do anything right, so because he don't follow God.
Nope.
We all kind of know that. But thank you again, Crystal, for
All
being
right.
here.
Thank you. It's been
Don't
fun.
run off too fast once the end credits go. I have a
All right.
couple of
Thank you,
closing
Straight
things.
Talk.
So we'll catch you guys on another day tomorrow. Hopefully, you guys will show up.
Yep.
Wisdom calls to you from the streets. So please, please, please find wisdom.
Absolutely.
Hold tight, dreams for if dreams die.